disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. Do you remember the Nordstream 2 pipeline that magically just exploded and people apparently, after an intense investigation, Seymour Hersh writing that article, and Joe Biden even admitting that it exploded under U.S. provisions, we still apparently don't know who exactly blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, one of the most ecological disasters of mankind. We still don't know who blew up the natural gas pipeline, even though all the signs were pointing to the United States. We still apparently don't know, and the mainstream media still is trying to cultivate some sort of plot twist, kind of building up the suspense to reveal exactly who blew up the pipeline. We tried to blame Russia. We tried so hard to say that Russia blew up its own pipeline in some evil ploy that Vladimir Putin only can cultivate with. But that didn't phase out. That didn't work well with the audience. So now they're trying to cultivate different theories on how this pipeline that the U.S. was targeting, that Joe Biden said that was going to blow up, did blow up. And it's just so hilarious to this day that even just saying it out loud and people still can't even come to conclusion. They can't even realize that it's so obvious to them. It's slapping them in the face, because then they'll have to realize that the Biden administration, the military industrial complex, the intelligence agencies, NATO, all these allies that have been peddling this Russia phobic propaganda stunt since 2016 that led us into an effort of war was all a goddamn sham. They would have to come to conclusion that they've been lied to since 2016. And way before that, but primarily 2016 when Russiagate came out. That was going to lead us into a war. Everybody was warned about that. They knew about it. They didn't care because Trump was going to be in office. And now here we are. Pipeline exploded. European nations are freezing their ass off because they don't have the resources to heat their homes. And the United States is going to probably swoop in and provide them, because that was the ultimate goal, was to subjugate them away from Russian oil to U.S. natural reserves. And in fact, it was kind of obvious that when CNBC interviewed RFK Jr. here, because RFK Jr., not only being a presidential candidate as an independent, but RFK Jr. is also an environmentalist. He's studied the factors that go into it, and he's been very profound when it came to the Ukraine war. He's been profound when it came to how this is all going to lead to an explosion of the Nord Stream pipeline, because of all the obvious factors that people still to this day are not figuring out. And it's so obvious that even the CNBC anchor that you're about to see before RFK responds just highlights out in the open exactly our wrongdoings when we were the ones obviously pointing out to explode the pipeline. It wasn't Russia. It wasn't some random Ukrainian. It was us, and here's why.
If I'm the economic or environmental minister or the president of Germany right now, and I'm listening to what you're saying, and I've covered this extensively, I've been over there many times, I've talked to them, I've been on the ground, they're freaking out because they need our gas.
So before they even get a response from RFK Jr., he already gave away the ending. He already gave away the suspense. He already gave away the entire kicker of the story. Why would we blow up the pipeline? Well, European nations are now intense. European nations are freaking out because now they have to find a new country, a new superpower, to provide them with energy reserves, and they have to come to the United States. That is why we would blow up the pipeline. That is why we would go and target Russia in the Ukraine war. That is why we use Ukrainians as cannon fodder to fight against Russia, the ultimate superpower that we want to invade and take over and economically dominate over since the end of the Cold War. We just used Ukraine as pawn. We used Ukraine as the hook to go after and fight Russia. As Lindsey Graham says, we have to fight them over there so we don't have to fight over here. Or is it Adam Schiff? Adam Schiff that said that, not Lindsey Graham. But Lindsey Graham's also a huge advocate for it. It was all a manufactured stunt to economically siege the Russian economy to try to advance U.S. capital in European nations. And how well did it work out? Well, it turns out the Russian economy is soaring while we are suffering mass inflation, and we're actually hurting ourselves, and the U.S. dollar and the petrodollar are being jeopardized. Those are two big critical factors of the entire economic system of the West being jeopardized because we decide to pick a fight with Russia and use Ukrainians as the soldiers.
Yeah, they're freaking out because we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline and we deindustrialized Germany. And that's a whole different issue. I mean, what are we doing in Ukraine? Let's make peace over there. Let's get Russian gas back into Europe so that we can reindustrialize Germany, reindustrialize Europe. But let's keep our gas at home and use it for manufacturing and reindustrialize America. Let's rebuild our industrial base at home. That's the best way to do it, with cheap frack gas that we can outcompete the world. Germany, is making a choice to boycott Russian gas, and
they're still getting it via liquefied natural gas. We don't know who blew up the Nord Stream. I know a lot of people suspect the U.S.
Oh my God! Oh my God! We still don't know who blew up the pipeline. I mean, all the signs are there, all the obvious clues. Oh my God. Well, I can tell you they definitely picked these television hosts for their brains, right? It's like watching someone trying to figure out a jigsaw puzzle after assembling all the pieces and then looking at it for hours on end to think, what exactly is this? I know it's a picture of fish, but is it a picture of fish? I don't know. I mean, I'm holding an apple right now, but I'm pretty sure it's a banana. Wow. You really gotta have a very, 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 very intense, narrow mind. Like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't even know the name of this anchor on CNBC. He's got to be one of these Russia-phobic, red baiting, McCarthy smear kind of pushers to really, after all that, what he said and what RFK Jr. said, and all the obvious clues, to say that, well, we still don't know. We still don't know. We'll find out at 11. If you watch next week's show, then after the cliffhanger, then maybe we'll reveal the actual story, but we have to do a couple more seasons of this. The soap opera of the never-ending story of who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline will continue after this. Wow. God, isn't that something? And this is on a business network. This is on a goddamn business network. It's one thing to say this on CNN, but a business network. Oh my God. If you're watching this to get real advice on your money, I advise you to turn this off and actually talk to an actual person. Do not listen to a damn word that a business network is telling you, because if this is the primal host that they provide you with context saying that we don't know who blew up the pipeline, but if they did, then obviously European nations will have to come to our oil and that would be beneficial to us, but we still don't know who did it. God, that's hilarious. But what's even more hilarious is what followed this particular clip, because This got tweeted out, and I just want to show this. By this woman by the name of Liz Smith. And she says that RFK Jr. peddling wildly irresponsible conspiracy theory that the U.S. blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. If we learned anything from Donald Trump, it's how dangerous it is to have a president who parrots Russian propaganda. How exactly is it Russian propaganda that not only did Joe Biden admit to this, which we're going to remind people about that, but the fact that the CNBC host, prior to RFK Jr. responding to that question, openly admit that, yes, it'd be beneficial because European nations would have to scatter to our resources. They'd have to get out our oil, our natural gas. It'd be beneficial for the businesses. How exactly is that Russian propaganda? If it was Russian propaganda, wouldn't it make sense to peddle towards Russian companies and Russian reserves and Russian oil? I thought, the propaganda from Russia is supposed to boost their economy, not ours. If Russian propaganda is going to make America great again, then I no wonder why there's such a big mega movement. Wow. God. People still drinking the Kool-Aid of disinformation. They're being propagandized to think that's Russian propaganda. And so much so that readers had to add context. So this might be interesting to know that while wildly irresponsible conspiracy theory is an expression of Liz Smith's opinion, the insinuation that constituents that Russian propaganda ignores that the story was broken by an extremely well-respected American journalist, Seymour Hersh, and links to the Substack that broke this all down. But then they will tell you that Seymour Hersh is not a journalist. He's just a vlogger. He's just a guy who has a lot of time on his hands. And why would he go to Substack? Why would he not go to a reputable source like the New York Times? Because they have such great writers there like Taylor Lorenz. I don't know, maybe because no one offered Seymour Hersh a spot at New York Times or the New York Post or the Washington Post or any other outlet to show the world the obvious clues of how we screw the world. We are the ones provoking terror. We're the ones creating terror. We are the world's terrorists. It's so goddamn obvious to people that all you have to do is open your eyes and look past your nose to realize what is happening. It's wow. It's so hilarious. So utterly hilarious that people still believe this is some sort of propaganda stunt. That somehow the United States, even though they had full opportunity and knew exactly from the start, and here's Joe Biden admitting to this, out on the White House lawn. This is in front of the press. This is not behind closed doors. This is not a classified tape or some sort of backdoor deal. This is out front in the press. He said this.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
We will bring an end to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That's him saying this to the press. To the press. And this is 2022, I do believe. 2022. Because Russia invaded in February 2022. So this is right around that time. Right around that time. And yet 2 years later, CNBC still wants you to believe that this is some sort of mystery. Like, we need Scooby and the gang to figure it out. We need to figure out something that Joe Biden immediately said to the press to threaten Russia with. Hey, if you step into Ukraine, we are going to explode the pipeline. Okay, capiche? Clearly, the media was not paying attention that day. Clearly. And here's a reporter responding to that, actually.
How will you do that? Exactly.
So, the reporter says, how would you do that exactly? Like, how would you make it disappear? And listen to Biden.
Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
We will do it. Even if it's under Germany's control, even if it's going to siphon off resources that are incredibly necessary for European nations as they're going to starve and freeze during the winter months during this catastrophic manufactured event. We will do it. We will do it. So, again, explain to me the conspiracy theory out of all this that your president, Joe Biden, admitted to the press prior to the explosion of that pipeline that we are going to explode the pipeline. And that 2 years later, CNBC still has not picked up that memo. Even after this video came out, Cy Hirsch's article revealed, and all the obvious clues, all the investigations, the obvious signs that point directly to the United States solely responsible for this pipeline, they still can't come to conclusion. It's like waiting for the results of American Idol. We will find out eventually who's going to win after this commercial break, after, all the ads from ExxonMobil and BP. We will find out eventually, some point, who blew up this pipeline. We'll never know, but you'll find out in later months in the next cliffhanger season. But trying to drag it out like a pointless soap opera. Like, holy crap. Even though it's so damn obvious. And this is one of the reasons. It's funny that I mentioned soap operas, because this is one of the reasons I'm not a fan of a lot of television dramas. Like, I don't watch any of the, House or Grey's Anatomy or any of that crap. Mostly because a lot of that doesn't interest me. I don't find that, intense or the dramatization. But also the fact that you watch it and you're watching the story and you're seeing kind of clues, you're seeing kind of the foreshadowing that's coming ahead of you. And you're watching it just going, I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. And then you watch it and then it does happen. And it's like, well, where's the suspense? What was the point of me watching if I knew exactly what this episode was going to relate to? What exactly the storyline was going to happen? Anyway. But apparently, CNBC still is not caught on. Just like that lady that posted it. Still saying that RFK Jr. is peddling a conspiracy theory. A Russian conspiracy theory. That all the obvious clues point to the United States. And again, if it was a Russian conspiracy theory, wouldn't the obvious sign be pointing towards elevating the Russian economy, which is all we're doing right now, going against Russia? We're helping them by going against them. That's how crazy this is.